Hello! So today I am back to do my album rearrange video. I'm excited to move everything around and have a new setup, but I'm also a bit daunted by the task because my collection is quite large. Just a disclaimer before we get going, my collection is not going to look cute and aesthetic by the end of this. If you've seen my original video, it's just kind of meh because I want to keep them in chronological order, and I typically only buy one version of each album for each artist or most artists. And trust me, I've watched so many other videos on how to make it look pleasing or to get ideas on how to make it look pleasing, and I just don't think it's possible. So I will try my best, but I don't think it's gonna happen. That being said though, if you are just absolutely screaming at your screen with better setup ideas, please leave them down below and I will try my best to apply them the next time I have to move my albums around. So yeah, before I get into it, I will give you a quick overview of what my shelves currently look like. I realized last time in my original video I forgot to say where I got my shelves from. I feel like everybody whose videos I've watched, they've said where they got them from. So mine are not the IKEA shelves that everybody has. They are just the black Mainstays Walmart brand or whatever, but they do the job. They look nice in my room, so that's the shelves that I use. But yeah, to start on the top of the shelf that y'all see in the side of my reaction videos, the top shelf is my Blackpink shelf, but obviously Itzy is now up there on the left side because they don't fit on the JYP shelf anymore because Stray Kids is basically taken over. So I just had to move Itzy up there because the Guess Who album is like too tall to fit unless it's at an angle on this JYP shelf, and there's just no room for that, so I had to move it. And then my JYP shelf looking pretty messy and gross, so we're gonna have to fix that. And then underneath, my Monsta X 10 and 17 shelf is looking very full and chaotic as well. Doesn't look too different from last time. I just have some little freebies from 17's movie that someone gave to me while I was there. But yeah, this shelf underneath was my everybody else shelf, and last time it was chock full of albums, but now it obviously is not. As I said in my last video, I am working on rehoming some of my albums that I don't really want anymore. Most of those are ATEEZs. They're listed on my Depop and my Poshmark, along with a few other albums from other artists. So if any of you want some gently used albums, fully intact and everything, consider going over there. I've already sold 2 of my ATEEZ ones, but I'm still looking to get rid of a few more or rehome a few more. But yeah, this shelf is going to look very different, I think. And then this one on the bottom is probably not going to change too much. It's my non-album merch shelf. Yeah, not too much is going to change, but I just want to clean it off and put everything back. So there's that shelf. And then for my other shelf on top we have NCT. This one doesn't look much different from the last time. Underneath we have BIGBANG and Treasure. There's only one album that got added to that, which was Treasure's new album. Still pretty empty though. And then underneath that, my GOT7 shelf was one that I did not think that I was going to be adding to anytime soon, but obviously they had to come back a couple weeks ago and released an album, so that one's just sitting on top of everything else. So I'm gonna have to do a big overhaul of this shelf for sure to make everything fit. And then lastly, my solo artist shelf. This one's probably also gonna change quite a bit. Right now it's pretty empty besides all the random crap that I have put on it because I have nowhere else to put it in my room. But yeah, it's probably going to change quite a bit. And then the bottom shelf also just has a bunch of random crap on it, but I will move that in case I need to use it for albums, depending on how I move everything around. So yeah, those are my shelves at the moment. Pretty bad looking. Alright, so I am back in my usual spot that you guys see me in if you watch my reactions, and I am finally done after 5 hours moving everything around, but I'm done moving my whole collection. I am so glad to be done. It took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. It only took me like 20 minutes to take everything off my shelves, but then putting everything back took forever, and it was kind of not fun, but it's done, so that's great. But yeah, again, it doesn't look super nice, but it definitely looks a lot cleaner and neater than it was before. I moved things around a lot more than I thought I was going to. I had a plan in my head, like I've been planning this video for a long time and how I wanted to move things around, but I definitely didn't stick to it, and everything is much different than I thought, but I am pretty happy with it, I think. Except one shelf, but we'll get into that. Basically, my goal, and I probably should have said this at the beginning of the video, but I forgot. But anyway, my goal for my rearrange was to, I don't want to say best utilize, because I don't think I did best utilize the space, but better utilize the space that I do have in my room on my shelves for my albums, because I don't have room anywhere in here for another tall shelf set or shelf unit like this. If I absolutely needed to expand to a different shelf, I would only have room for one about half the height. So that was really my goal in putting things back where I did, was trying to make as much space as possible on each shelf to allow for adding to the collection. So like my Stray Kids shelf, there's plenty of room to add more albums to, and then there's some that are gonna be a little bit of an issue, but we'll figure that out later. But yeah, I think I did a pretty good job. Some of them were easier than others to put everything back. Like some of them I just slapped everything in chronological order and left it at that. But then others, as you saw, I was trying to be a little bit fancier with this setup, and I was trying to, you know, stack things on top of each other, like use the boxes to like stack things on top of, on like my GOT7 shelf, my BIGBANG shelf at the bottom there. Obviously my Stray Kids shelf I did quite a bit of stacking, and then my Blackpink shelf, I hate my Blackpink shelf. I'm not happy with it. I think it looks ugly. I thought that one was going to be the absolute easiest because there's like not a lot to it, but I was just not happy with any of the ways that I had organized anything, and I still might move it around again, but I'm just gonna leave it at that because I want to be done. Again, it doesn't look nice at all, like aesthetically pleasing. That's what I mean by nice. It doesn't look aesthetically pleasing, but it looks cleaner and neater, and at that point that's all I need. And then the last thing that I would like to do before I finish out this video is give a quick little rundown of each shelf and just kind of explain why I put things in certain places. So yeah. Alright, so obviously the top shelf is just Blackpink. Again, I hate how this turned out. I'm probably going to move things around again. But yeah, not much to say about that. Anyway, moving on. Now we are at my Stray Kids shelf, and again, I am so freaking happy with how this turned out. Like, it just looks so good, and I'm really happy with how the stacking of the albums worked, like on top of my extra copy of Ordinary. It's a long story, but I was only originally supposed to have just the black, the blue, and the red version, but because their US site messed up so many people's orders, sending them like the wrong versions, and I was one of those people that they did that to, it caused some issues, and I ended up with an extra one, but it worked out so nicely because I used it as like a platform to stack all of my other albums, and now there's so much extra space because it's just Stray Kids on the shelf. So yeah, it looks super good, and I'm super happy with it. Then underneath, this was my Monsta X 17 and Wano shelf, but now it's just Monsta X and Wano with a big gap in the middle. It was just super messy and full with 17 on it as well. So now it just has Monsta X and Wano, and there's plenty of space to add any other upcoming albums that they're gonna have. I know they both just released some, so there's plenty of space now for them. And then underneath, what was my everybody else shelf is now kind of my Hybe shelf, I guess, with 17, TXT, and BTS on it. This one is gonna be my problem child, I guess, as you can see in the middle where that jar is, kind of holding everything up-ish. There's not a lot of space to add, so that one's going to be a little bit of an issue if there's too many releases from TXT in 17. I know BTS just announced today that they're going on a little hiatus of sorts, so yeah, I don't know. Not a lot of space in there, but it looks okay. And then underneath this shelf looks pretty much the exact same. It's just cleaner, less covered in pollen. It's all of my non-CD merch, like concert DVDs, Season's Greetings, Going 17 magazine, photo books, and that sort of thing. And then I would say that this bookshelf, CD shelf, whatever you want to call it, changed the absolute most. So obviously this very top shelf was all of the NCT units, including Super M, all mixed together and whatnot. And I said in my original collection video that I wasn't going to put like all of NCT Dream's albums together side by side and then 127's all together and wayv's all together. I was just going to keep them in the order that they all came out, all mixed up, because that's how the project works. But it actually looks better like this, so I was very wrong in how I had it before. It looks nicer. And then my Lucas signed picture from Super M is up there, but my Super M album is on a different shelf, but this was the only spot for that picture, so fun. And then underneath, Treasure is still on this shelf, but then I've also put my NCT like full group albums, like the yearly ones, and Itzy on the very end. And the reason I did this is because Treasure are obviously a YG group. They don't release anything very frequently. They release like once a year. And then obviously same deal with the NCT full group albums. And then Itzy for me are very hit or miss when it comes to their albums, and my collection is obviously very small, but it's allowing growth for all three on both sides. There's a lot of space on the shelf to add to that one, so put them all together. And then underneath obviously is my GOT7 shelf, which looks interesting. I don't really know if I'm happy with this one either, to be honest. I tried stacking some of the boxes together and they don't look that great, but it's gonna have to do for now. And also the sun damage on these albums is really embarrassing, so I'm gonna move on. But underneath that is now all of the solo artist albums. This one was really easy to put together because I was just throwing them there in chronological order, but there's still a lot of space on the side to add a bunch of other albums as they get released. And then the very last shelf is one that I don't plan on adding to anytime soon because it is BIGBANG and their like solo albums, and Mino of Winter's solo album as well on the top there, the yellow one on the left. And then I also have Day6's albums. All of them are currently in the military, so they're not going to be releasing anything anytime soon for the next couple of years, I think. And then Super M are obviously not releasing anything. And then Jonghyun's album, I didn't film me putting it down there. I was going to put it at the top like it was before, but I decided I should probably just put it down there. And then on the very end are the two ATEEZ albums that I kept, but I might get rid of those two as well. I don't know. Still deciding on that. But yeah, those are my shelves. Hopefully I won't have to move them around again too much. But yeah, I think it looks pretty okay. But yeah, that is my album rearrange. I am so happy to have it done. It's very warm in here. If you've gotten this far, thank you for watching. I assume this video is going to be long because it's me and I just can't do anything quickly. But yeah, thank you for watching, and a quick reminder before I go, again, I have quite a few albums on my Depop and my Poshmark account that I'm trying to rehome, I guess. They're very, very gently used, like the CD's only been used one time, and they're going to be fully intact as well. So if you or anyone you know are looking for some K-pop albums like that, definitely consider going and checking out my Depop or my Poshmark. It's the same username and same price for the albums and everything across both accounts. I will say that at the time that this video gets posted, I will not be home. I think I'm going to post this on the 27th of June, hopefully. So I will not be home until July 6th at the earliest. So I won't be able to ship anything if you buy something between the 27th and July 6th. But I just wanted to throw that in there in case anyone's looking for some albums. It's mostly ATEEZ, some NCT, some solo artists. I forget everything that I have at the moment, but there's a decent selection, I would say, in there. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that again before wrapping everything up. But yeah, again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.